Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go through a kind of more in-depth video. So if you will have seen my developing characters video, which I did in collaboration with Holly Davis, check that out if you haven't. But so I kind of grazed over my main steps to developing characters. So I wanted to take this time and do a couple of videos that go a little bit more in depth on each of those steps. So this one is going to be all about basically discovering / meeting your characters. So kind of getting just the very basics, the very beginning going. And this I always do in my little handy dandy notebook. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this. So this is going to be how I start with my characters, just kind of getting to know my characters. Just like with anybody you meet out in the real world, you always start off with kind of basic get to know you things. Normally, I start this in notebooks. I normally have notebooks that I'll put these in. For the sake of this video, though, I'm going to go ahead and do it on loose leaf paper. So I always have paper, notebook. You can do it in an Excel spreadsheet. Google Docs is a great free way to do that. And I've been using Google Docs for some work stuff. And it's just kind of spilled over into my writing, and I'm loving Google Docs. You can put it on anything. You can use it on Scrivener, things like that. So you can create this wherever you feel like you need to create it. Since I love doing things on paper first, I have a black pen, and then I'll normally have this is a blue pen or a red pen or purple, like whatever color I feel like. I like having contrasting colors just so I can see which one's the questions, which one's the answer, and that's why I normally do 2 pens. And then, as always, you're going to need a big steaming cup of either coffee or tea, or you can have a cup of water, anything you like. This cup I got from Williams-Sonoma, and it has Virgo, and it has the Virgo constellation on it. And then on the inside, it has traits. So I absolutely love that mug. So let's get started. For the sake of time, I went ahead and wrote down all of the questions that I ask on the paper first, or you can do this in, like I said, an Excel spreadsheet or anything like that. So first things first, I always write the name at the top. So being a sci-fi writer, this doesn't always mean first name, middle name, last name. This could be, one name by itself. It could be a name with a location, it could be like Tom the Baker or something like that. I'll put the name directly on the top in black, and then I'll go back and I'll write down all of these. So first thing we have is the nickname, and I just wrote J by it. I'm making stuff up at this point. So nickname is J for Sarah Jane. I have the gender, and she's going to be a female, so I'll just put an F or I'll put female there. Birth date. This really ties into the ones over here that we're going to talk about in a second. Mother, father, ethnicity, race, species. So being a sci-fi writer, that comes in handy. Religion, sexual orientation, and language. So for language, I'll normally write their main language first. So like, let's say they're an earthling that, I don't know, has a job as a captain for a transport ship in space. Like in the book Khunda that's gonna come out hopefully not in 5 years. Hopefully sooner than that. But she speaks English first, and then she'll speak other alien languages after that. So I'll put their main language first, and then other languages they speak after that. Then that chunk right there is what I call kind of the under the surface chunk. So it's going to be things you don't really know 100% about that person until you really start saying, oh, hey, my name's Kristina, what's your name, blah, 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 and you start having a conversation with them. This chunk here is what I say things you can generally get just by looking at them. So if you had like a Sims character and you're just looking at your Sims character, this is generally the section that's all of that stuff. So it'll be like the age. You can get a good guess range on that. I like to get, because I have birth date and I have age, I like to nail down an exact age for my characters, and it just kind of makes me get into their mindset a little bit more. Their height, their body type, which could be, are they muscular? Are they athletic? Are they average? Are they skinny? Are they overweight? Things like that really help kind of narrow down the body type. Eye color, their hair color, their hairstyle. So their hairstyle to me is very important, because if you have a female that always braids her hair in a specific way, that's something you want to let your readers know. If you have a male character who always has their hair short, or always has their hair in a man bun or something like that. That is a good deciding characteristic to help your readers visualize. And then facial hair, if your men have any scruff, which I absolutely love, or if they happen to have, you know, a full-on Dumbledore beard. That's something you'll put there. Glasses or contacts. So if they have glasses, obviously that's something you're going to see. That should be something that kind of should be described somewhere in there. If they have contacts, there's a couple different things here. So you can have color contacts. So it could be that they naturally have green eyes, but they have blue eyes because they have contacts. Or it could be, you know, they're in a sandstorm. I don't know why, but if they're in a sandstorm and their contacts dry out, or if sand gets on their contacts, you know how painful that is if you've ever had contacts. So that's something there. Piercing and tattoos. So do they have any piercings or tattoos? Tattoos in a lot of cultures are, you know, could be taken as a status symbol. It could be taken as, you know, if you're a warrior, you know, how good of a warrior you are. So things like that are really good at kind of giving you an idea about that character. Skin color. So this, I don't generally just go with white, black, olive, anything like that, brown. I will say a golden honey brown. I'll get very descriptive with skin colors. A rich, dark brown color or something like that. I'll get really descriptive with it, or like a porcelain pale, things like that. I'll get very descriptive with it, just because even if I'm not specifically saying it to my characters for them to straight up visualize, if I'm describing my characters, I feel like things I know, the more I know about them, comes across without me really having to think about it. That's a good thing to have in there. Birthmarks and scars. So these could be anything from, you know, if you're in a fantasy genre, having a certain birthmark could be a sign of lineage. It could be, you know, if you're a werewolf and you have a certain, I don't know, moon-shaped scar, you could belong to a certain family type. Or, you know, scars could be if you were bitten by a vampire before, or if you were in a battle or something like that. So that's really good descriptive characters. So that's what those are there. These two over here, I think, are two of the most important things that you have to answer about your characters, and each of your characters as well. Myers-Briggs. If you don't know what Myers-Briggs types are, go on Google, check it out. There are, I think it's 16 personality types, and this really helps you understand what your character would do in certain situations and how your character will react in different situations. So that is just like one of the biggest things that I have, that I use, is their Myers-Briggs type. And then of course you have to have their Myers-Briggs coordinate kind of with their sign, their astrological sign. So, you know, you can't have a Virgo who is the most organized, you know, and the most planning type of, you know, sign, and then have the most spontaneous Myers-Briggs. While Virgos can be spontaneous, they tend to not be because they're too busy planning it, you know? So you have to have two things that coordinate. So these two, I think, are the biggest things when developing, when you're first starting out developing your characters, because they're going to really give you an insight as to how they're going to interact and react to things when you go through the outlining and the full writing process, as well as the editing. That's going to be big too. So that's what I do on the front page. On the back page, flip, I have their family. So family is very important. It's going to be like, you know, were they raised by their aunt and uncle, or were they raised in the foster system, and so their family is therefore a built family, not a born into family. So that's going to be just main family characters too. It's going to be the really close ones. So it won't be like your second cousins or anything necessarily, unless you're very close. You know, your character's very, very close to them. But your family is going to be somebody that they generally will see at least once a week, is a good, you know, thought process there. Friends. Do they have any friends, like best friends? Do they have, you know, 3 best female friends that they go to about everything? So that's kind of a nice link through other characters. Their education level. So this could be anywhere from, in some cultures, I know that children are educated in the home as to how to do the job that the family does. So they, you know, if they're bakers, I don't know. If they're bakers, you know, they learn how to bake or something like that. Whereas education can go all the way up through, you know, their scholars or their, you know, doctorates or something like that, to where they're still in the school system and still constantly learning, like everybody generally is. But I'm talking about like in a school form. And then do they also have, that also would pertain to, I don't know, a pilot, a captain on a transport ship. You know, what makes her a captain aboard a transport ship? You know, that's a good question too. Occupation. Hey, look at that. If she's a captain of a transport ship, that's where you would put that. So occupation is, what do they do? So it could be anywhere from, you know, working, homemakers, to, I don't know, intergalactic pilots, or it could be students. You could be a student in any occupation as well. Next, I will put this section right here is really kind of just their biggest fear. This one helps with like how they'll react to things or their underlying situations. So biggest fear. So if they're, I don't know, afraid of spiders and their friend Hagrid tells them to follow the spiders, you know, and if they're terrified of them, obviously they're going to react differently than somebody who's not really afraid of spiders. So that's going to help with how they react to certain things. Biggest secret, that could be, you know, how they handle things emotionally. If you have a secret, you know, like you stole something from a store when you were 9, I don't know, you could be a little bit more jumpy if the store manager asks you if you need any help while you're in the store. So that's going to help with reactions as well. Biggest regrets. Let's say if you know, cheated on someone you found out was the love of your life, that could be your biggest regret. And that will also be, you know, why are you so worried about losing the next person that you fall in love with? Or why are you worried about falling in love in general? Or, you know, it could be anything like that. So we just kicked the camera. Next, I put the character's sports and hobbies. So this could be a lot. This really does affect the way the character's brains work. If the character plays football or wrestling or something like that, they tend to be more of a go for it kind of person. They tend to be more of a forward mover. So in the sense that if there's, you know, somebody bucks up to them and starts saying something, they're more likely going to get into a fight than somebody that was on the chess team. If you are on the chess team, you're going to be more logical about it. You're going to stop and you're going to think and you're going to be, you know, more than likely it's going to be like, how can you talk your way out of it? Or how can you kind of maneuver your way out of it? So that's going to help a lot with, you know, how they react to things as well. Favorite book. I put this in here in mine because I really do feel like what you read really says a lot about you. I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, and that has to do with the fact that, you know, growing up, I'm a big daddy's girl, and my father and I really bonded over Star Trek, over Sequest, remember that one? A lot of the sci-fi stuff, a lot of comic book reading. So we really bonded with that, and I feel like that's why I love to read and write fantasy from here. And that's why I've always been drawn back to the fantasy and sci-fi genres, is because I was raised on it and it was a huge connector between me and my father. So I feel good things, you know, good vibes about it. I feel the love of my parents when I think about it. Up here, I have these two are also very important when it comes to creating a 3D character. So rather than having a character that just, you know, is trying to survive the book, or you really don't see them beyond this book, this helps you really create a human, or, you know, alien, whichever one you're thinking of. But 5-year plan and 10-year plan really help lay out, you know, the fact that they are human. Most humans that I know of have plans for the future. They want to get their master's degree in something. They want to help children in the long run. They want to, you know, find the love of their life and get married. And then maybe they want to have a couple kids later on. People have plans for years and years in advance. People want to retire. You know, if you're already have a family and you're older, you know, you're probably taking off the days until you retire to some island somewhere. So things like that are going to be in your 5 and 10-year plans. Annoying habit. This is going to be a habit that your character has that annoys other people. So my husband picks at his cuticles It's the most annoying thing in the world, and it annoys his mother and I to no end. So that could be something you put in there, and it could be like a nervous twitch as well, an unconscious action. So when they're talking, or when they're having a discussion, or when they're having an argument, something like that could pop up just because that could be a nervous twitch that they do. Hero. Who is your character's hero? This is not going to be like Batman or Superman, although those are really good heroes to have. Heroes are going to be more of a realistic person. So for, you know, for your character, it could be their parent, or it could be a grandparent or something like that. Somebody realistic. It could be their uncle that, you know, died in a fire because he was a fireman. So that makes them want to be a fireman. So it's kind of like one of the heroes in real life, realistic heroes. What annoys them most? That's a good one to go with, because if something annoys me, I tend to, let's see here, get snappier. I tend to get a little meaner. So if you're doing something that annoys me, you might hear me say, stop it. That is something that's just going to be like, if it annoys them, they'll react differently. If somebody does something that annoys them constantly, they're probably not going to like that person as much as they like, you know, their best friend or their love interest, things like that. Most treasured items. So this is the last one I've put on this. This is the like I said, get to know your characters. Most treasured item. This for me is a big deal because sadly, I like torturing my characters a little bit. And what I can do is take that most treasured item and either make it disappear, or I can use it as a torture device in a way. Or you can even, having them lose their most treasured item could be a breaking point in this character's life. It could also be something that they just have at home and really isn't a big part of the story. It could just be something that's sitting like on their bedside that they touch every morning or something like that, just because it reminds them of a person or a time or a feeling or an emotion, anything like that. And it just reminds them of good times. So it could be something just as small as that, and just it's like a habit. Just wake up and you touch this item, or you read this book or something like that. So that is what I do for my very basic get to know your character sheet. So I hope this helps you, and I hope this really helps you get to know your characters. I do this for every main character in my book. So I'll have some lower level characters that I might go ahead and do some of this for. But those are normally going to be ones that like pop in and pop out. They're like in for like 1, maybe 2 scenes, and then they're gone. If they're not going to stick around for a good chunk of the book, then I really don't do this for them. I just do this normally for my characters. They're going to be throughout the book, if not throughout the series. And that is how I kind of just get to know and start developing my characters. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!